know those signs that you see on the road? I'm remembering one that I saw with a surfer girl, and she's holding on to the surfboard, and there was a big chunk out of the surfboard where a shark obviously had bitten through, and she had lost her arm. And on the saying was, "Give up, not me." That spiritual side of you can push through those physical limitations. Do we not see that in healing? How many times have we heard the doctor say, "Well, there really isn't much we can do"? Then, physically, there isn't much we can do. What do we do then? We pray. We send spiritual healing. We send good, positive thoughts. And somehow, they get better. Now the medical community is starting to bridge that gap. They are looking at how effective the mind is in healing. They've done, even as far as children, they've gone and taught them the little Pac-Man game that would eat up all the little... Not, of course, that I played that. They've taught children how to use that visualization and go in there and eat up all the cancer cells. And it works. But you have to have that stable spiritual side of you, which for some of us, unfortunately, we did not get that training and that practice when we were younger. But it's never too late, is it? I know they say that you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but see, none of us are old, so we can learn. We can teach and train ourselves. We can learn new things. We can learn how to strengthen that spirituality of who we are inside, so that what goes on in the physical world doesn't have as much effect on us. I'm reminded of the saying by Andrew Jackson Davis: "In all things, keep an even mind." How many times at work or in anywhere that you go do you hear people talking negatively about something? And sometimes when we aren't aware of that, we buy into that process, don't we? Somebody once said teachers' lounges are good for that. Because what do they talk about? The problem children. They don't talk about, "Oh, Johnny, he's such a star." No, it's, "Can you believe Fred talks all the time?" Does he talk all the time in your class? So what is that? We buy into that, but we don't have to. Because what really matters is what's going on inside. Because you see, eventually we're going to get rid of these bodies. And the you of who you are goes on. Your spiritual self, your spiritual being goes on from here. These bodies are just tools. We can use them for practice and for training of our spiritual self, to enhance that, to bring out who we are, because we are spirit first, as proven through mediumship. Most of you have come to the church And you've gotten a wonderful message from the spirit side of life. And it's proven to you beyond the shadow of a doubt that we go on. And through practice and training, we can enhance that. When you learn to integrate your physical and your spiritual self, you become more a whole being. Because you're not just one, and you're not just the other. We as spiritualists have beliefs that we know are true beyond the shadow of a doubt. Our declaration of principles. How many of you say that and say it so much out of rote that you don't pay attention to what you're saying? Because you see, those are our guidelines for living life here. Just as we have guidelines in the physical. You can't run a stoplight. Well, you can, but you pay attention. You use these. Our pioneers have gone before and studied this and found universal truths. Universal spiritual truths and guidelines to help us here. How many of you remember having children or grandchildren or being around little children and thinking, wish I had a handbook for what do I do when they do this? We have guidelines. We have a handbook. We have principles that we can take. We make our own happiness or unhappiness. Do unto others. Infinite intelligence. See, we have all of these. We have these guidelines. We also have natural law, which are God's laws. We know they are immutable and unchangeable. They work the same for everyone. Now, sometimes guidelines and rules don't work the same in the physical world, do they? If any of you have been brought up with brothers or sisters, well, how come such and such got that first? We need a spiritual truth to hold on to that is unfailing. And that's natural law. The law of vibration, the law of cause and effect. That doesn't change. Just like the law of gravity doesn't change. Don't we all wish it did? Your training, your practice, utilizing these principles, putting out good thoughts, positive thoughts, good vibrations. We know that thoughts are things. We know that when you throw a stone in the pond, the waters ripple out. And so do our thoughts. And so do our actions, physically and spiritually. So we've talked about protection. We've talked about practice and training. And last but not least is choice. We were given choice. You have the choice